everyone, and welcome again to Daily Grace with Pastor James. So glad that you are joining me again in this episode. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we are now jumping back to our series. Remember that series that we started some few weeks back, and we have actually taken a break. Today we are going into the part 4, standing firm or standing strong against adversity. Standing strong against adversity. And we did say that we are going to go through 6 stages in any situation that we are going through. Any situation that we're going through, we did mention that it has 6 stages. The first stage is the shock stage, and then the second stage is the sorrow stage. The third stage is the struggle stage. And then the fourth stage is the submission or the surrender stage. The fifth stage is the sanctification, and the sixth one is the service. We have looked at shock, we have looked at sorrow, we have looked at struggle, and then today we want to look at surrender. We want to look at submission. Submission as a pathway to peace. Submission as a pathway to peace. Have you ever been in a serious situation? In a situation where it seems as if there is nothing that is going to get you out of that pit, the pit that you are falling into, because it's so deep, it's so wide, that it seems that that is the end for you. And we have a lot of pits, we have a lot of challenges that we go through on a daily basis. Sometimes it could just be financial pit, sometimes it could just be a relational pit. All these things are pits. They are challenges, they are situations, crisis situations that we go through. And when you go through them, how do you have peace in your life? Let us just quickly recap what we have done so far so that we can now flow through this one. The first thing that we looked at is the stage of shock. And in the stage of shock, what we did say you do is to cry to God and then seek for help from other people. Because when you are in that state of shock, there's nothing, there's so many things that you cannot do for yourself. So you seek other people's help, and then you also cry on to God. And then the second stage, which is the stage of struggle, the stage that you are really getting angry. And God, what did we say that you do in the stage of sorrow? What do we say that you do in that place? You need to grieve. That is the grieving stage. That is the grieving stage. And then the third stage is the stage of struggle, where you are still struggling to come to terms with what is going on. And of course, in that place, you want to complain to God, you want to petition God, you want to remind God about His promises for your life, and you want to express your trust in God. So today, let us just quickly jump into what we want to look at, which is surrender, surrender, surrender. You need to surrender for you to have peace in your life. And the Bible passage that will give us the principles that will see us through this is taken from 2 Samuel 12, 16 to 24. I am not going to read all through because of our time, but you can read it on your own. 2 Samuel chapter 12. Verses 16 to 24, this is where David lost his son, the son that he had out of wedlock. And then when we jump to verse 20, it says, so David arose from the ground after he has fasted for 7 days, and yet this child actually gave up the ghost. So David arose from the ground, washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothes. That is one principle. And he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and when he requested, they set food before him and he ate. Then, when we jump to verse 23, but now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back? I shall go to him, but he shall not come to me. These are the principles that you are supposed to use when you are in that terrible challenge and you want to have peace in your mind, in your life. The first thing you do is to accept what you cannot change. David couldn't change the death of that boy. And so he said in verse 23, but now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back? There are situations we cannot change in our lives. When we have bad news, when we get bad news, the first thing that we want to do is we want to say, no, it's not possible. I don't believe this. This is not true. And we'll just keep going on and on and on and on. Yes, it is natural because that is how we have been wired, not to accept bad news. The Christians, some of us will just say, I reject it in Jesus' name, which is perfectly all right. But it has happened, it will get to a stage where you will now have to accept that because it is something you cannot change. You can go and read 2 Samuel 12, 22 to 23. That really explains that principle. And then after that, the second thing that you are meant to do, after you have accepted the situation the way it is to remember that it is not the end of the story. It is not the end of the story. David said in verse 23, the B part of it, he said, I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. In other words, there is a life after this life that he is going to meet his son again. Whatever situation you are going through right now, it's not the end of the story. It is only when you allow it to be the end of the story. And then the third thing, when you have come to terms with what you're going through, is you want to take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. In verse 20, so David arose from the ground, washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothes. Yes, when this thing happens, for days, we don't eat, we don't drink, we don't wash, we don't do anything, but it comes to a time where, of course, you need to take care of yourself. When you have now come to terms with what has happened, so take care of yourself. And the fourth principle is refocus on God through worship. Imagine David, after that has happened, the next thing he just said, look, I will go to the house of the Lord to worship the Lord. So you go to the house of the Lord. Verse 20, it says, and he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. If you read Psalms 73, 16 to 17, it will explain to you that that is where you have an insight of what has happened, and then you begin to read into God's mind. You begin to read into God's mind. These are the principles that will help us. The 15 is do something productive. After you have mourned for a while, you need to go and do something productive. Re-enter into the world and then begin to do things. Not that you are no longer grieving, but at least you are now trying to live your life again. These are the principles that will help us to gain peace even in our tribulation. We need to submit to God's wisdom and God's judgment. Thank you so much for listening to me in this episode. Once again, my name is Pastor James Egodibie, a pastor of RCCG Solid Rock Parish, Derby, 55 Woods Lane, DE22 3UD. If you'd like to worship with us, we welcome you with an open arms. We are a wonderful and loving and a family church. God bless you. And if this message has spoken to you and blessed you, please do share it with other people so that they can also be blessed. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode. God bless you.